Imagine for a moment that you're standing in the kitchen of a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. Not a mansion. Not a penthouse. Just a normal house in a normal neighborhood. The kind your parents bought in 1985 for $89,000 while working one job at the post office. You're a teacher. Your spouse is a nurse. Combined, you make $140,000 a year. By every definition, you should be middle class. You should be comfortable. You should be building wealth. But there's a problem. A very specific, very terrifying problem. You open your laptop to check your bank account, and your chest tightens. Despite 2 college degrees, 2 full-time professional jobs, and 50-hour work weeks, you have $1,200 in your savings account. Your credit card balance is $18,000. Your student loans are $67,000. Your mortgage payment just went up $400 because of escrow adjustments. And you just got a text from your daughter's daycare. Tuition is increasing to $2,400 per month starting next quarter. You close the laptop. You feel like you're drowning. And the worst part? You're doing everything right. Welcome to the middle class extinction event. We are witnessing something unprecedented in modern economic history. The middle class, the backbone of every stable society, the dream that built nations, is vanishing. Not slowly. Not gradually. At record speed. We're not talking about people who made bad choices. We're talking about teachers, nurses, engineers, accountants, and small business owners who played by every rule, checked every box, and are somehow worse off than their parents were at the same age. From the housing affordability apocalypse to the childcare crisis, from wage stagnation to the death of pensions, the economic ladder that used to lift families into prosperity has been sawed in half. And the people climbing it are falling through the gap. So grab a coffee, hopefully you can still afford one, and let's dissect exactly how the American dream became the American nightmare. Let's start with the single most destructive force obliterating the middle class. Housing. For 70 years, the formula was simple. You graduate high school or college. You get a job. You save for a down payment. You buy a house. You build equity. You retire with an asset worth something. You pass it to your kids. That was the wealth-building engine of the middle class. Home ownership. In 2025, that engine is dead. Let's paint a picture. It's 1985. Your parents, Bob and Linda, are 28 years old. Bob works as an electrician making $35,000 a year. Linda is a secretary making $22,000. Combined household income, $57,000. The median home price in their city is $89,000. That's 1.56 times their annual income. They save for 2 years. They put down $9,000, 10%. They get a mortgage at 11% interest. It's high, but they can afford the payment. $850 a month. That's 18% of their gross income. They buy the house. Done. They're homeowners. Now let's do the math for their kids. It's 2025. Meet Jake and Emily. They're 28. Jake is a software developer making $95,000. Emily is a physical therapist making $75,000. Combined household income, $170,000. They're making 3 times what Bob and Linda made, adjusted for inflation. They should be crushing it, right? The median home price in their city is now $650,000. That's 3.8 times their annual income. They need a 20% down payment to avoid PMI, $130,000. Let me repeat that. $130,000 in cash. To save $130,000, even if they save $2,000 per month, which is nearly impossible with rent and student loans, it would take them 5.4 years. Let's say they somehow scrape together the down payment. Their mortgage payment at 7% interest is $3,450 per month. That's 24% of their gross income, after they've already drained their savings. But wait, it gets worse. Property taxes. $650 per month. Homeowners insurance. $250 per month. HOA fees. $150 per month. Maintenance budget. $300 per month. Their real monthly housing cost: $4,800. That's 34% of their gross income. And we haven't even added utilities, food, car payments, student loans, or childcare yet. Jake and Emily are mathematically locked out of homeownership. Not because they're lazy. Not because they're irresponsible. Because the numbers don't work. This is the housing trap. And here's the truly brutal part. While they're trapped renting, paying someone else's mortgage, they're building zero equity. Their landlord is building wealth. They're building nothing. The scenario is even darker than you think. Let me introduce you to rent-trapped Rachel. Rachel is 35. She's a graphic designer making $68,000 a year in Austin, Texas. She's been trying to buy a house for 5 years. In 2020, she had $40,000 saved for a down payment. Houses in her target neighborhood were $320,000. She could almost afford it. Then the pandemic hit. Remote workers from California flooded Austin. By 2022, those same houses were $580,000. Rachel kept saving. But prices rose faster than she could save. In 2025, those houses are $650,000. She's been saving for 5 years, and she's further away from home ownership than when she started. She's running on a treadmill that's speeding up. She will never catch up. According to recent data, the home ownership rate for people under 35 has dropped to 37%, the lowest in 70 years. In 1985, it was 54%. An entire generation is locked out of the primary wealth-building tool of the middle class. And while they're locked out, the corporations and private equity firms are buying up the houses they can't afford and renting them back at inflated prices. The middle class built wealth through housing. When you kill housing access, you kill the middle class. If you're feeling this pain, drop a comment. I want to hear your story. How much is your rent? How much would you need for a down payment in your city? Let's put real numbers on this crisis. Let's talk about the lie you've been told your whole life. Work hard, get an education, and you'll make more money. That was true for your parents. It's a fantasy for you. Here's the data that should make your blood boil. In 1985, the median household income was $23,618. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $67,000 in 2025 dollars. In 2025, the median household income is $75,000. So wages went up, right? We're making more money. Wrong. Let me show you what happened to costs in that same period. Housing. Up 180% beyond inflation. College tuition. Up 213% beyond inflation. Healthcare. Up 150% beyond inflation. Childcare. Up 220% beyond inflation. Your wages went up 12%. Your costs went up 150 to 220%. You're earning slightly more dollars, but you can afford dramatically less life. Let me introduce you to the tale of two generations. Bob's 1985 scenario. Bob graduated high school, got a job at the factory making $35,000 per year, bought a house, 1.5x his income. Single income household, Linda stayed home with kids. Had 2 kids. Saved 10% of his income. Retired at 62 with a pension. Jake's 2025 scenario. Jake graduated college with $45,000 in student debt. Got a job as an engineer making $85,000 per year. Can't afford a house. 7x his income. Dual income household required. Both work full-time. Can afford 1 kid maybe. Saves 2% of his income when he can. Will work until 70, no pension. 401k is a prayer. Jake is more educated and earns more than Bob did. But Jake is objectively poorer. This is wage stagnation disguised as wage growth. And here's the part that should make you furious. Productivity went up 77% since 1985. American workers are producing dramatically more value per hour than their parents did. But wages didn't keep pace with productivity. The extra wealth went somewhere. Where? To the top. CEO pay went up 1,460% since 1978. Worker pay went up 18%. Let's put a human face on this. Meet teacher Tom. Tom teaches high school English in Ohio. He has a master's degree required for his job. He makes $52,000 a year. His rent, $1,400 per month. His student loans, $650 per month. His car payment. He needs a car to get to work $380 per month. His health insurance, even with employer contribution $320 per month. That's $2,750 per month in fixed costs. After taxes, Tom takes home about $3,200 per month. He has $450 left for food, gas, utilities, clothing, and savings. Tom is a professional with a graduate degree living paycheck to paycheck. He can't buy a house. He can't start a family. He can't save for retirement. He's one medical emergency away from financial ruin. Tom represents millions of middle-class professionals who did everything right and are still broke. The middle class was built on fair wages. When wages stagnate while costs explode, the middle class disappears. Hit that subscribe button if you want to understand how the economy is rigged against you. We break down the system so you can survive it. Let's talk about the most successful scam of the 21st century. The higher education industrial complex. For decades, you've been told, go to college. Get a degree. You'll make more money. That was true in 1985. In 2025, it's a debt trap. Here's what happened. In 1985, the average cost of a 4-year public university was $2,550 per year. You could work a summer job and pay for most of it. Total debt at graduation, maybe $5,000. In 2025, the average cost of a 4-year public university is $27,000 per year. Even working full-time while in school, you can't cover it. Total debt at graduation, $30,000 to $50,000. For private schools or graduate degrees, $80,000 to $150,000. And here's the kicker. You can't discharge student debt in bankruptcy. It follows you until you die. Let me introduce you to Dr. Sarah. Sarah did everything right. She went to college. She went to med school. She became a pediatrician. She's helping children. She's a hero, right? Sarah is 34 years old. She makes $180,000 a year. Sounds great. Her student loan balance, $320,000. Her monthly student loan payment, $2,800. Even making $180,000 a year, Sarah can't afford to buy a house, can't afford to have kids, and won't pay off her loans until she's 55 years old. Sarah is a doctor living like a broke college student because of debt. Now let's look at regret major Ryan. Ryan graduated in 2018 with a degree in communications. He borrowed $60,000. He makes $48,000 a year in marketing. His loan payment, $650 per month. For the next 20 years, Ryan will pay $156,000 to repay a $60,000 loan, thanks to interest. And his degree hasn't increased his earning potential enough to justify the cost. Ryan's net worth at age 30, negative $48,000. He's not building wealth. He's starting in a hole. This is happening to 45 million Americans. The middle class used to send their kids to college to create opportunity. Now they're sending them to create debt. And here's the cruel irony. In 1985, you could get a middle-class job with a high school diploma. Today, you need a bachelor's degree to get the same job your parents got with a diploma. And that bachelor's degree costs $120,000. You're paying 6 figures to compete for jobs that used to require zero debt. The ladder to the middle class now costs $100,000 to climb, and when you get to the top, the rungs are missing. The middle class sent kids to college to build wealth. Now college creates debt that prevents wealth building. When education becomes a trap, the middle class vanishes. Let's talk about the most dystopian aspect of middle class destruction. Healthcare. In every other developed country, this section doesn't exist. But in America, healthcare is a financial weapon pointed at the middle class. Here's the reality. The #1 cause of bankruptcy in America is medical debt. Not bad investments. Not gambling. Getting sick. Let me paint the scenario. Meet healthy Henry. Henry is 42. He's a project manager making $85,000 per year. He has employer-sponsored health insurance. He's covered. His premium. His portion $450 per month. His deductible. $6,500. His out-of-pocket max. $14,000. One day, Henry feels chest pain. He goes to the ER. It's not a heart attack. It's severe acid reflux. The bill? $18,000. Insurance covers it. After the deductible, Henry owes $6,500. Henry doesn't have $6,500 in savings. He puts it on a credit card at 22% interest. Henry got sick. He went to the doctor. He followed the rules. And it financially destroyed him. Now let's look at the real nightmare scenario. Cancer Carol. Carol is 51. She's a middle school principal. She makes $92,000. She has good insurance. Carol is diagnosed with breast cancer. She needs surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. Total cost of treatment: $350,000. Insurance covers most of it. But Carol still hits her out-of-pocket maximum: $14,000. Then she needs to take 6 months off work. Short-term disability pays 60% of her salary. She loses $2,750 per month in income for 6 months. $16,500. She has to hire help for childcare and housework. $5,000. Total out-of-pocket cost of surviving cancer: $35,500. Carol saved for 15 years to have $40,000 in her savings account. Cancer wiped it out in 7 months. She survived cancer. But she lost 15 years of savings. Carol's crime: getting sick while middle class. And here's the truly insane part. Carol had good insurance. Imagine if she didn't. According to recent studies, 66% of bankruptcies in the U.S. are tied to medical issues. And 75% of those people had health insurance when they got sick. Having insurance doesn't protect you anymore. Let me show you the math of middle-class healthcare. Premium: $450 per month equals $5,400 per year. Deductible: $6,500 per year. Copays and prescriptions: $2,000/year. Total annual healthcare cost for a covered family: $13,900. And that's if nothing goes wrong. 1 hospitalization, 1 surgery, 1 chronic condition. And you're looking at $25,000 to $40,000 out of pocket. The middle class can't afford to get sick. And it gets darker. Let's talk about the insulin crisis. Diabetics need insulin to survive. In 1985, a vial of insulin cost $20. Today, it costs $300. It's the same drug, made the same way, but it costs 15x more. Why? Because pharmaceutical companies can charge whatever they want, and insurance companies negotiate deals that screw the patient. So you have middle-class families rationing life-saving medication because they can't afford it. People are dying because they're middle class. Hit that like button if you think healthcare should be a right, not a ransom. The middle class was protected by affordable healthcare. When healthcare becomes unaffordable, the middle class becomes uninsurable. When you're 1 illness away from bankruptcy, you're not middle class. You're 1 emergency away from poverty. Let's talk about the expense that should be a joy but has become a financial execution: raising children. In 1985, childcare was expensive. In 2025, it's economically prohibitive. Here's the data that should horrify you. Average cost of infant daycare in a major city: $2,400 per month. Let me repeat that: $2,400 per month. That's $28,800 per year. Per child. For reference, that's more than in-state college tuition. The average car payment. Most people's rent in the 1990s. Let me introduce you to the 2-income trap. Meet dual-income Dana and David. They both work full-time. Dana is a nurse making $72,000. David is a software tester making $68,000. Combined, $140,000. They have 2 kids, ages 1 and 3. Childcare cost, $2,400 per month x 2 kids equals $4,800 per month. That's $57,600 per year. After taxes, Dana brings home about $54,000. After childcare, she's netting negative $3,600. Dana is paying $3,600 per year for the privilege of going to work. This is the trap. Dana can't quit her job because they need her health insurance. They need her income for the mortgage. If she quits, she loses 10 years of career progression. But working costs her money. Dana is trapped. This is the two-income trap, and it's destroying the middle class. Now let's look at the math of staying home. If Dana quits to raise the kids, she saves $57,600 in childcare. She loses $72,000 in income. Net loss, $14,400 per year. But wait, there's more. Loss of retirement contributions, $7,200 per year. Loss of Social Security credits. Loss of career advancement. She'll re-enter the workforce 5 years behind. Loss of health insurance. They have to buy individual plan, $18,000 per year. Actual cost of Dana staying home, $39,600 per year plus long-term career damage. Neither option works. Working loses money. Staying home loses more money. Middle-class families are mathematically prevented from having children. And this explains why the birth rate is collapsing. It's not a cultural shift. It's an economic reality. In 1985, Bob and Linda had 3 kids on a single $35,000 income. In 2025, Jake and Emily have 1 kid on a $170,000 dual income, and they're barely surviving. The middle class was built by families who could afford children. When children become economically impossible, the middle class doesn't reproduce. A middle class that doesn't reproduce doesn't exist. Let's talk about the greatest bait and switch in economic history. The death of pensions and the rise of the 401k. Your parents had pensions. You have a 401k. And that difference is why you'll work until you die. Here's what changed. Bob's 1985 retirement plan. Bob works 30 years at the factory. Bob retires at 62. Bob gets a pension, $3,500 per month for life. Bob also gets Social Security, $2,400 per month. Total retirement income, $5,900 per month. Bob never worried about the stock market. Bob retired comfortably. Jake's 2025 retirement plan. Jake works 40-plus years if he's lucky. Jake has a 401k. He contributes 6%. Company matches 3%. Jake's 401k balance at age 65. Maybe $800,000 if the market cooperates. Using the 4% rule, Jake can withdraw $32,000 per year. Jake also gets Social Security. $2,800 per month equals $33,600 per year. Total retirement income, $65,600 per year. Jake's healthcare costs in retirement, $15,000 per year. Jake's actual spending money, $50,600 per year. That's $4,216 per month. Bob had more retirement income in 1985, $5,900 per month, than Jake will have in 2025, $4,216 per month. And Jake had to save for 40 years and gamble on the stock market to get less than Bob got automatically. The 401k was sold as freedom. It's actually a retirement downgrade disguised as a benefit. But wait, it gets worse. Let me introduce you to the 401k trap. Meet underfunded Ursula. She's 55. She's been contributing to her 401k for 30 years. Her balance, $180,000. Sounds good, right? Wrong. At 65, using the 4% rule, Ursula can withdraw $7,200 per year. That's $600 per month. Social Security, $1,800 per month. Total retirement income, $2,400 per month. Her mortgage, $1,600 per month. Healthcare, $900 per month. That leaves $0 for food, utilities, or entertainment. Ursula will work until she physically can't. And then she'll rely on her kids or go bankrupt. And here's the truly cruel part. The 401k only works if you can afford to max it out. To retire comfortably, you need to save $1.5 million to $2 million. To reach that, you need to contribute $19,500 per year, the max, for 35 years, assuming 7% returns. But the median middle-class worker can't afford to contribute $19,500 per year. They contribute $5,000 to $8,000 per year. The 401k system requires you to have money to make money. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you can't save enough to retire. According to recent data, 50% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. Half the country will retire into poverty. And let's talk about the stock market dependency. Bob's pension didn't care if the stock market crashed. The company owed him $3,500 per month no matter what. Jake's 401k is entirely dependent on the market. If he retires in a crash year, like 2008 or 2022, his savings get cut by 30 to 40% overnight. Your retirement is a gamble. Your parents' wasn't. The middle class was built on guaranteed retirements. When you replace pensions with 401ks, you transfer risk from corporations to workers. When workers can't save enough and the market crashes, they retire into poverty. A middle class that retires poor isn't middle class. It's temporarily middle class before becoming elderly poor. Let's talk about the final insult. Taxes. The middle class pays the highest effective tax rate in America. Not the rich. Not the poor. You. Let me show you the scam. Jake makes $95,000 per year. His tax breakdown. Federal income tax. 22% bracket equals $14,000. FICA, Social Security plus Medicare 7.65% equals $7,267. State income tax. 5% equals $4,750. Total taxes. $26,017. Effective tax rate. 27.4%. Billionaire Bill makes $10 million per year, mostly capital gains. Capital gains tax. 20% equals $2 million. No FICA, only on earned income. Effective tax rate. 20%. Jake, making $95,000, pays a higher percentage than Bill, making $10 million. And here's where it gets offensive. Jake's $26,017 in taxes gets him crumbling public schools, so he pays for private, $15,000 per year. Inadequate health care, so he pays for insurance, $6,000 per year. Deteriorating infrastructure, so he pays for tolls and car repairs, $2,000 per year. Underfunded police, so he pays for home security, $1,200 per year. Jake pays taxes, then pays again for private versions of public services that don't work. Meanwhile, Bill pays his 20% and gets tax attorneys to find loopholes, offshore accounts, carried interest deductions, depreciation write-offs on his real estate, charitable foundation deductions that he controls. Effective rate Bill actually pays after deductions, 8 to 12%. Let's introduce tax-crushed Tina. Tina makes $78,000 as an accountant. She's single, no kids. Her tax bill, $21,000. She gets no deductions, no write-offs, no loopholes. She pays her 27% and shuts up. Meanwhile, her company's CEO makes $8 million, pays 15% effective rate, and complains about taxes being too high. The middle class is the tax mule of America. And here's the part that should make you riot. The middle class pays for Social Security, which will be bankrupt before they retire. Medicare, which will be insolvent by 2028. Infrastructure, which is crumbling. Education, which is failing. Defense, which protects corporate interests abroad. You're funding a system that doesn't serve you. The middle class was built on a social contract. Pay taxes, get services. When you pay more taxes and get fewer services, while the rich pay less and get subsidies, the contract is broken. When the contract breaks, the middle class revolts or vanishes. Let's add it all up. Let's see what it actually costs to be middle class in 2025. Jake and Emily's middle class budget. Income: dual professional household. Jake, software dev $95,000. Emily, physical therapist $75,000. Gross income: $170,000. After-tax income: $122,000, $10,166 per month. Fixed expenses: rent, can't afford to buy $3,200 per month. Student loans, $1,100 per month. Car payments, 2 cars, both need them for work, $750 per month. Car insurance, $280 per month. Health insurance, their portion $450 per month. Childcare, 1 kid, $2,400 per month. Total fixed, $8,180 per month. Remaining, $1,986 per month. Variable expenses: groceries, $800 per month. Gas, $300 per month. Utilities, $220 per month. Phone, $150 per month. Internet, $80 per month. Subscriptions, streaming, etc. $60 per month. Clothing, $150 per month. Total variable, $1,760 per month. Remaining, $226 per month. That's $226 per month for savings, retirement, emergency fund, entertainment, vacation, home repairs, medical copays, gifts, anything unexpected. Jake and Emily make $170,000 per year. They have $226 per month of breathing room. 1 car repair, 1 medical bill, 1 emergency, and they're in debt. This is the middle class in 2025. This is why they're vanishing. They're not buying houses. They're not having kids. They're not saving for retirement. They're not building wealth. They're surviving. Barely. And here's the cruelest part. Jake and Emily are the lucky ones. They have good jobs. No chronic illness. 1 kid instead of 2 or 3. The middle class isn't failing because of bad choices. The middle class is failing because the math doesn't work anymore. So what have we learned? We've seen how housing went from affordable to impossible. We've watched wages stagnate while costs exploded. We've calculated the crushing weight of student debt, healthcare extortion, childcare costs, retirement insecurity, and tax inequity. But why should you care? Why does this matter? Because you are the middle class. Or you were. Or you're desperately trying to be. And the middle class isn't just an economic category. It's the foundation of civilization. Stable societies have large middle classes. Unstable societies have elites and peasants. When the middle class vanishes, you get political extremism. People vote for anyone promising change. Social unrest. People with nothing to lose riot. Economic stagnation. No consumer spending equals no growth. Demographic collapse. People can't afford families. Generational theft. Each generation poorer than the last. The middle class is vanishing. And when it's gone, society collapses. But here's the lesson. You've been lied to. You've been told. Work hard and you'll succeed. Not anymore. Get educated and you'll earn more. Not enough to justify the debt. Buy a house to build wealth. You can't afford one. Save for retirement. You can't save enough. The system that your parents navigated successfully no longer exists. And the people who broke it are telling you it's your fault for not trying hard enough. It's not your fault. You're not failing the system. The system failed you. True wealth isn't about income anymore. It's about Not having debt. Having emergency savings. Owning assets that appreciate. Having time and health. Not being trapped by expenses you can't escape. The middle class is vanishing because the cost of maintaining middle-class life now exceeds the income of middle-class jobs. You can't will yourself into a class that's been economically dismantled. But you can understand what happened. You can stop blaming yourself. And you can make choices that protect you from the worst of it. Avoid debt like poison, especially consumer debt. Delay major expenses, house, kids, until you have a financial cushion. Maximize income, side hustles, skill development, job hopping. Minimize fixed costs, don't lifestyle inflate. Build community, mutual aid, shared resources. The old middle-class playbook doesn't work. You need a new one. And please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching.